Welcome to the Livin'Sky podcast, a show about raising connected, resilient kids in a world that often forgets what they need most. I'm Lena Livinsky, a pediatric speech-language pathologist, holistic feeding specialist, and a mom, here to help you understand your child's body, behavior, and biology in a whole new way. Each episode brings you simple, practical tools to support healthy eating, development, and family connection without the overwhelm. Thanks for listening. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Well, hey there, Mama. Welcome back to the Livin'Sky podcast. I am so thrilled to be here with you because today marks the first episode of season 4. And so much has happened over the past month that I've been really looking forward to sitting down and sharing it with you. First, I have some exciting news. I was recently accepted as a speaker at a national school nutrition conference that will be happening this July in Charlotte. I'm incredibly honored and excited for the opportunity to share this work with a larger audience. I'm excited and I'm nervous, but it's great, especially in spaces where we can begin shifting the conversation around how we think about feeding children. And I feel like there is no better place than talking to nutritionists, specifically people who work at schools, right? I think if we really pay attention to what's happening with nutrition in the schools and if we can shift that is such an incredible opportunity for a greater change. There is also something really, really big coming later this year in November. I can't share all the details yet, but I promise I will as soon as I'm able to. Just know that some really exciting things are unfolding behind the scenes. Another highlight from the past few weeks has been my Beyond Picky Eating workshop. Over the last 3 weeks, I've presented it live twice here in the Charlotte area, and just this past Thursday, I hosted it online as well. And I have to say, I've been so blessed because the response has been incredible. So many parents have been excited to hear a very different perspective on picky eating, one that looks beyond behavior and instead focuses on the whole child. We talked about nervous system regulation, sensory experiences, digestion, and the environment around food. And the conversations with parents have been so thoughtful and so encouraging. And what I loved most was being able to do it live. Because in this era of digital courses and social media, I think we've lost some of that real connection that happens when people can actually ask questions in the moment. When parents can say, "This is what's happening in my house," and we can talk about it together. That kind of learning feels very human to me. It's how I learn best, being able to see examples, ask questions, have visuals, and explore ideas together. So because the response has been so positive, I've decided I'm going to continue hosting this workshop every month for the foreseeable future. And the next one will be happening on Thursday, April 9th at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you're a parent of a picky eater or maybe multiple picky eaters and you want to understand what might actually be happening underneath the surface, I would love to have you join us. You can register at lenalivinsky.com/workshop. Again, that's lenalivinsky.com/workshop. I'm going to include the link in the show notes of this episode so you can easily click on it there. And I'm so excited to continue welcoming parents into this space and having these conversations together. And with that, let's move into today's episode. Today, I want to talk about something that quietly shapes how our children eat, something that most parents don't realize is happening. I want to talk about food stories. Every child is writing them, not just what they eat, but with how eating feels. And I want to start today by taking you somewhere with me for just a moment back to the Polish countryside when I was about 11 or 12 years old. I'm standing in the countryside in Poland visiting my grandfather's brother. In my heart, he felt like a third grandpa. He lived on this small farm surrounded by open fields. There were pigs wandering around in the yard, a cow slowly chewing behind a wooden fence, and a big red tractor parked near the barn that I was completely obsessed with. Sometimes he would let me climb up into the seat, and I remember gripping the steering wheel with both hands, pretending I was driving across the whole farm. I felt enormous sitting up there, like a giant looking out over the fields. And then there were the bees. I was kind of terrified of them, to be honest, but they were incredible because hundreds of them, drifting through the warm summer air, made the honey that would later sit on the kitchen table. And let me tell you, that was the best honey in the world. Every Everything there on my grandfather's farm felt slower, calmer, and more grounded. And food was always at the center of it. In Poland, we have a saying, when there is a guest in a house, there is God in a house. It means when someone enters your home, their presence is sacred. You feed them, you welcome them, you take care of them. And that day was no different. The table was full. There were thick slices of dark rye bread, butter softening around the edges, pickled cucumbers and cloudy brine, fresh cheese, honey from the bees outside, the sunlight stretched across the wooden table, countless plates of goodies and fresh fruits and veggies and meats were right there in the center. Sunlight stretched across the wooden table. I remember the light almost as clearly. I remember the light almost as clearly as I remember the food. And then my grandpa placed a jar in front of me, sitting in vinegar, floating in the glass. And the smell hit me immediately. Sharp, sour, earthy. And then I noticed the shape of them. They were just slimy, brown, and gross. And my whole body reacted. And I told myself, absolutely not. And at home, I would have refused them instantly. And I would have told my parents, like, I'm not eating this. But something about that moment felt different. I was at my grandfather's house and I felt very calm. And he didn't pressure me. He didn't insist. He didn't say, just take one bite. He simply nudged the jar toward me and gave me a big smile and waited. I loved him so much. I felt safe. I felt calm. I felt connected sitting at that table. So I did something that surprised even me. I tried them and I loved them. To this day, I still love mushrooms. I can eat them almost every day. I will put them in my pancakes if that made more sense. They're just so good. But what stayed with me wasn't the mushrooms. It was how my body felt in that moment. I didn't try them because I was told to, and I didn't try them because somebody insisted. I tried them because I felt safe. And when my state changed, eating followed. I didn't understand any of that when I was a kid. I was just sitting at a table in a Polish countryside. But looking back now, as a feeding specialist, I see something very clearly. That moment was a food story. A food story that shaped how I felt about mushrooms for the entirety of my life. And food stories are the emotional memories we build around eating. And every single child is writing them. Some food stories feel safe, some feel stressful, some feel nurturing, some feel forced. And those stories don't disappear. They quietly shape how children relate to food later. You know, I'm a huge believer that light is one of the most powerful medicines for our kids and for us. That's why I love Bon Charge. Their blue light blocking glasses, red light therapy devices, and many other products are designed to support your circadian rhythm and help your family sleep and feel better naturally. In our modern world of screens and artificial light, these small shifts make a big difference. Calmer evenings, deep sleep, better focus, and happier moods. I use Bon Charge products every single day, and even my son has his own pair of blue light blocking glasses for evening story time. You can check out all their products at boncharge.com and use code LENAL to save 15% off your purchase. In life. This is one of the biggest things parents misunderstand about picky eating. Most advice focuses on behavior. Take a bite, try one more, no dessert unless you finish dinner. But behavior is only the surface. Underneath picky eating, there is often something deeper happening in the child's body. Sometimes it's sensory processing. Sometimes it's nervous system regulation. Sometimes it's digestion. Sometimes the environment around the meal, it's a little too stressful for them. But one of the most overlooked pieces is emotional safety. When a child's nervous system feels safe, Their body becomes more open to exploring food and to be curious about things. Their flexibility returns. But when the nervous system feels stressed or pressed, their body goes into fight or flight, and the opposite happens. The body protects itself. And that's when we see the food refusal, the rigidity, the same 5 foods, the battles at the table. It's not just behavior, it's the body responding to how eating feels. So instead of asking parents, what foods does your child eat? I often ask a different question. How does eating feel for them? Does it feel calm? Does it feel stressful? Do they feel rushed? Do they feel pressured? Because when we start to shift the emotional environment around food, something interesting happens. The story begins to change. And when the story changes, eating often follows. Every child is writing food stories. Some of these stories will follow them for years. And the beautiful thing is that we can help shape those stories through connection, through safety, through slowing down and meeting our children where they are. Sometimes the biggest shifts in picky eating don't come from forcing a bite. Actually, that never happens. They come from changing the way the table feels. They come from changing the way their eating environment makes them feel. And that's what we explore today. And that makes the biggest difference. So I'm encouraging you to think about this. Think about what kind of food stories your children are writing every day and help them rewrite them and help them create food stories that are positive, that are nurturing, that are going to move them towards enjoying food. So now that we talked about food stories, I want to leave you with a few ideas for how parents can help their children create positive food stories. Because this is something that happens quietly over time. It's not one meal, it's not one bite. It's the overall experience your child has around food again and again. And the first thing I always encourage parents to think about is state. What state is your child in when they sit down to eat? Are they calm? Are they regulated? Or are they tired, overstimulated, rushing from one activity to the next? Maybe they just got home from school and they've missed you all day, so all they want is to spend a few minutes with you. A child's nervous system has a huge influence on appetite. If a child feels stressed or dysregulated, their body is not prioritizing digestion. So sometimes the most helpful thing you can do before a meal is actually slow things down. Let your child run outside for a few minutes. Take a few deep breaths together. Give them a big hug. Turn the lights down a little bit. Maybe have dinner at candlelight. They're going to love that. Create a moment where their body can shift into a calmer state. Because when the nervous system relaxes, curiosity often follows. Another piece of this is the environment. Think about what the table feels like. Is the TV on? Is there a lot of rushing? Is there screaming from other kiddos in the house? Maybe some younger siblings? Are there distractions everywhere? Sometimes small changes in the environment can make a big difference. Natural light, music playing softly, things like classical music. I've even had somebody tell me that their kids really were stressed eating at home, but for some reason they were great eaters at the restaurant. So what the mom started doing is playing restaurant noise at dinner. And she also took away all the distractions. They had candlelight dinners at the dinner table, and it worked like magic for their kids. Somehow that was really soothing, and that really helped them become more curious at the table. Even something as simple as sitting together and sharing the meal instead of standing and preparing food while the child eats. Those little signals tell the child's body that this is a safe place to explore food. Another thing I often remind parents is that exposure doesn't always mean eating. This is really important. Kids can interact with food in many different ways before they even take a bite. They can smell it, touch it, help cook it, watch someone else eat it. Those experiences count. They're all part of the story your child is writing about that food. And sometimes we skip those steps and jump straight to just try it. But curiosity usually grows through gentle exposure over time. Another really powerful tool is modeling. Children watch us very closely. If they see us enjoying food, talking about flavors, describing textures, showing curiosity ourselves, they begin to see food as something interesting rather than something stressful. And the last piece I want to mention here is connection. That's at the root of my Bloom framework, and I cannot stress enough how important it is. Some of the most powerful food memories children carry are not about the food itself. They're about the moment, the laughter, the conversation, the feeling of belonging at the table. This was the biggest piece that I remembered about my mushroom story. It was how I felt in that moment. It was the sunlight hitting the table, the laughs shared with everybody there, with all of my grandparents. I mean, it was such a special moment. When meals become moments of connection instead of pressure, children's relationship with food begins to change. And again, this happened overnight. But over time, those moments add up. And they become the foundation for a very different kind of food story. One where food feels safe, one where curiosity can grow, and one where children slowly begin to explore in their own time. And that's really the goal. Not perfect eating, but helping our children feel safe enough with food that curiosity can begin to lead the way. Thank you so much for tuning into episode 1 of season 4 of the Livin'Sky podcast. I am so happy to be back here with you. I miss this podcast so much because I feel like it allows me to connect with so many people through the means that I love, through conversations. And having you here is an absolute honor. So I really want you to do that. I hope that today's episode was helpful to you. I hope that it's going to make you think about what kind of food stories your children are writing and how you can influence them, that the ones moving forward will be filled with connection and love. If you found this episode valuable, if you learned something new, if you enjoyed what you heard, please make sure you share it with a friend, with another mama, with another dad, because you never know. Maybe this is something that is going to help them transform their table and their family's dynamic. So please make sure to share. And if you did enjoy it, please consider leaving a 5-star review so that this podcast gets discovered by more mamas like you. Thank you again for being here. Bye for now. Thanks so much for listening to the Livin'Sky podcast. If this episode resonated, please leave a quick 5-star review or share it with another parent who'd love it too. It really helps more families find the support that they need. And don't forget to join my newsletter at LenaLivinsky.com for more tips and free guides. Sending a little sunshine to your kitchen today. See you next time.